Welcome back to another Valley Sports Plug Phoenix Suns recap for January 11th, 2023 through January 24th, 2023. I'm Chris Patrick, and with me as always is my man Michael Benjamin, here to break it all down for you. So let's get right into it. In the last 2 weeks, the Suns would go 4-3. Not bad, a step in the right direction. They are now 25-24. That means back over 500. So let's take a look at those last 7 games and how it all broke down. It was a road trip to start the stretch. At Denver Nuggets, we lost 126-97. Then on to the Minnesota Timberwolves, where we would lose 121-116. Finishing up the road trip in Memphis against the Grizzlies, losing that game 136-106, a 30-point blowout. Man, you hate to see it. At that point, the Suns had lost 12 of their last 14 games. But we were back at home taking on the Brooklyn Nets with no Kevin Durant. We would win that game 117-112 in Cam Johnson's return to the court after 2 months away. Then we had Indiana. We would win that game 112-107. The Grizzlies would come into town and we would get revenge, winning that game 112-110. And then last night against the Charlotte Hornets, we would win that game 128-97. So 4 of their last 4 games, the Suns have won a 4-game win streak. Looks like they're turning it around with Cam Johnson back. I'll send it over now to Michael Benjamin here for a closer look at those last 7 games. Mike, what you got?
Yes, sir. So coming off of that miraculous win against the Golden State Warriors, where everybody counted the Suns out, they went into Denver and just couldn't match up. I mean, the Nuggets are first overall in the Western Conference for a reason. The Suns only dressed 10 players. They just didn't have enough gas in the back-to-back. It was the 12th straight home win for the Nuggets of the season. And we were starting to see some of the same old things from the past month. The Suns started the second quarter with an 8-second violation. So it just really didn't have any gas to keep up with the Nuggets in that game. And we went to Minnesota. Anthony Edwards had a pretty big game, 31.6 rebounds and 3 assists. Damian Lee had a career high, 31 points in that game, shooting lights out. Ayton returned from a 2-game ankle issue and just was bottled up by Rudy Gobert, only shot 5 of 18. And we brought in some new blood. We saw Saban Lee signed to a 10-day contract, and he contributed to that comeback, but we just fell a little bit short, unfortunately. Then we went to Memphis and got waxed, unfortunately, once again. Morant did what he did, elevates at the rim. He really is a special talent. I got to be honest with you guys. It was a close game going into half. We were only down by 3 points, but the Suns were outscored 39-23 in the third. And we saw some more injuries creeping up once again. Josh Okogie ended up going out with a nose injury. And then the big guy, Cam Johnson, finally saw his return after a 37-game absence, scoring 19 and having 6 rebounds. The Suns were up by 20 points, and the Nets cut it in the fourth quarter by a big push from Kyrie Irving, who had 21 of his 30 points in the fourth quarter. But we're able to hold the line and finish that game off, which started us on a nice little winning streak, which was sorely needed for this team, that's for sure. We had the Pacers coming to town. Okogie came back, the masked Avenger, you could almost call him, had 24, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. Ish Wainwright had a big corner 3, which put our lead to 107-101 with about a minute 10 left. Then he had a nice little dish to Jock Landale to pretty much seal it. And the Pacers have been struggling a little bit. Halliburton has been out, and they've lost 7 straight. Then we got the Grizzlies coming into town. We got some revenge. At one point, the Suns were up 72-43. But I was at that game. Tallman was at that game. Some pretty nice seats, I might say, as well. But in that second half, I could just feel the tides turning a little bit, and Memphis kept clawing back and clawing back. Zaire Williams hit a damn near full court shot to end the third quarter, and the Suns barely made it through that game, but good thing we had an almost 30-point lead, or else that game might have went sideways. And then tonight, the Hornets came to town, and we handled business. Cam Johnson had 19 points in the first half. Bismack Biyombo had 4 blocks in the first half, all over on the defensive end. And Dario Saric Seems like he's got a nice little pep in his step the past 2, 3 games. He finished with 19 points as well. I did see the Suns were struggling against that 2-3 zone to end this first half, and the Hornets cut it to 8, but they're definitely not on the same page as the Memphis Grizzlies. You never really thought that they were gonna really get back into that game, and that's what happened with the end here. So this win streak, it was sorely needed. At one point during these past 2 weeks, the Suns dropped to 12th in the Western Conference. You know, like what we were talking about with having to fight almost to get into a play-in. But
Hmm.
everything is so tight right now. This 4-game win streak has propelled us into 5th in the Western Conference. And we're only getting healthier, which is exactly what this team needed. But Chris, I want to pass it back over to you so you can let us know what you've been seeing these past 2 weeks.
Yeah, man. Thank you. It's what we've all been seeing, really. Like you mentioned there, us getting healthy is going to be a catalyst to this team's success. And even our star players in and out. We had 7 games in these last 2 weeks, and Cam Johnson came back, only played in 3 of those games. DeAndre Ayton has been out the last 3, 4 games with some illness. Chris Paul only played in 2 of the last 7. But of course, you can always count on Iron Man, Mikal Bridges in all 7 of those games. He has really been a stud holding it down. I want to shout out Cam Johnson in the game against the Hornets. 6 of 7 from the 3-point line. He was absolutely electric, hitting all of his shots, looking really good. The Suns' offense looking in sync. I did notice that in the game against the Hornets, they were switching a lot. Almost anytime the defender was screening, they were just rolling with it. And I think they've been trying to get to that point, and that's why it's looked like poor defense before, is because they are trying to do all these switches, but sometimes maybe getting lazy, maybe not communicating and not on the same page. So as these guys get healthy, as these guys play together more throughout the season and can implement the Monty system, I think we'll start to see more success. But Mike, the elephant in the room, Jay Crowder still on this roster. The trade deadline is February 9th, so that's now about 2 weeks away, I think just a little bit over. We had the talks about Rui Hachimura. He's now a Laker. People are saying that's going to make it more difficult to get a guy like Kyle Kuzma, which a lot of Suns fans have been kind of pining for and hoping that the Suns would pursue. But it's going to be interesting to see. I know a hot name I was hearing just today was Fred VanVleet from the Toronto Raptors. I'm kind of partial to that, another point guard. Again, that's kind of why we were giving Saben Lee a couple of chances. I think now he's on his second 10-day contract. So I do like Corona del Sol alumni Saben Lee. I like to see his success, shout out to the hometown kid. But at the end of the day, it's all about creating the best roster that's going to give us the best chance to make a deep playoff run and have those championship aspirations. So these guys need to get healthy. And I think it just goes to show that once they do, with the short time window of these last 4 games being more healthy, even not 100%, it's starting to click. And Devin Booker was seen putting up shots today. Also saw that out there. So we can hope to see him returning to the court real soon.
His return has to be imminent. I promise you that. He's chomping at the bit to get back with this team, especially after these last 4 games. And you can see that the unit that was built is a winning unit. So if you add your number 1 superstar back into that mix, I mean, my goodness, things are only looking up from here. Oh, yeah. I mean, going to the trading of Jay Crowder, I think it's only a matter of time. It just has to be done before the trade deadline. I don't think you can bite the bullet and buy his contract out. I think that would look soft for the franchise, unfortunately. And now with Matt Ishbia's taking over of the team kind of being imminent as well, we've already started to see some rumblings about what's going to be happening for the future at the point guard position. And there's been 3 different names. Like you said, Fred VanVleet has been one of those guys. Terry Rozier, who was in town tonight, and Emmanuel Quickly from the New York Knicks have been 3 possible guys who might be part of some package deals, hopefully to get Jay Crowder in and bring some other guys in. And I'm fine with that, Chris, because right now, Cam Payne is not a part of the picture. I think his injury is more serious than people realize. And I'm concerned about that backup point guard position. I know Saben Lee has been doing some good things in his 10-day contract. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets signed for the rest of the year, depending on what kind of deal gets done for the point guard position. But if you want to make a playoff run, I really want to have a shirt up backup point guard, and any of those guys will do. So, with that being said, I think it's that time to announce who our players of the recap will be. So, I want to see, Chris, who is your player of the recap this week?
Yeah, let's do it, man. It's got to be Cam Johnson coming back into the fold after being out for over 2 months, coming off a 3-game losing streak. The Suns needed a boost, and Cam Johnson delivered. In that game against the Brooklyn Nets, he had 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. Absolutely electric. You love it. You love Cam Johnson. You love seeing him. He did, they're taking it slow. They're letting him rest. He didn't play in the game against Indiana. Kind of had a slow game against Memphis, only having 8 points. But then in the game against Charlotte, like I said, 6 of 7 from the 3-point line, 24 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. He's a scorer, and his jump shot is so pretty. And we're going to really rely on that. And that's what really makes the Suns deadly when they're at full strength, is how many offensive weapons they can have on the court. Of course, you expect Devin Booker to have the rock and take those shots most of the time. But the second you double team him, you have a guy like Cam Johnson, and now Mikal Bridges is hitting his shots. These two guys, the twins, I think they're called, a dynamic duo. So on that note, Mike, who is your player of the recap?
Love to see Cam back. He was on the list. Chris Paul was on the list as well. Saban Lee was even on that list. Maybe
Honorable
Dario
mention.
Saric. A lot of guys, especially these last 4 games. But we're going to call him Mr. Back-to-Back because I'm going with Mikal Bridges again. I just have to. Over the last 7, 20.6 points a game, 5.3 assists, 3.7 rebounds, 1.6 steals. Only about 2 turnovers a game, and he's been shooting lights out, 46% field goal and 41.7 from 3. They've really had to rely on him to do a lot more on the scoring front with all of our guys injured. And, his nickname is the Iron Man for a reason. And he's just been keeping pace for this team. And I'm starting to see those next steps evolve. He still has a little bit of ways to go, but you can see it. Man, I'm just really excited for what this kid has been doing, and he's going to be a special player for years to come. I promise you that. 5 straight 20-plus point games, that's just exactly what this team needed. A boost in the arm to get us back into where we are in the standings and hopefully keep that momentum going forward.
Yes, sir. Speaking of going forward, again, we keep saying it's not an easy stretch coming up. I think a little bit easier than the last run, but we're looking at Dallas at home. Then we're on the road to San Antonio, Toronto, Atlanta, Boston, Detroit, and then Brooklyn again. And it sounds like Kevin Durant's going to be out for a while, but don't sleep on Kyrie Irving and those other players on that Nets team. That's a squad you don't want to mess with. So this Suns team is going to stay being tested, but as these players get healthy, man, it's going to be very interesting to see. So speaking of that Toronto game I just mentioned here at home, Mike, we are doing a giveaway of some sort for tickets.
Oh, 100%. We are deep in it now. We had an Instagram post go live on the 16th. We've had some awesome interaction already. Some brand new followers, some new subscribers. Love to see the Valley fans getting involved. And you got a couple more days. We're going to be doing the drawing for the winner on January 27th. So make sure you go to our Instagram at AZ_VSP. If you haven't already joined in, make sure you get into that raffle. You'll be going to the Suns game against the Toronto Raptors. And hey, Devin Booker already getting shots up. I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing in that game. So make sure you get involved.
Absolutely. All the information is right there on the Instagram page. So at AZ_VSP, you can get all the information and go and see that Suns game. So we'll keep the tabs on the Suns. You guys can keep tabs on the Suns here, right on Valley Sports Plug. But we're going to get out of here and see y'all in 2 weeks. For Michael Benjamin, I'm Chris Patrick. We'll see you next time.